We pull into the gravel parking lot in front of City Hall. The stucco structure looks a hell of a lot more weathered than I remember it. Tarps drape the roof, and one of the windows is blacked out with plastic. City Hall is probably the oldest building still standing in Echo. From what I read on the county's website, it served as the town's post office back in the early 20th century. Before then, it was an outpost used as an intelligence operations center during the years leading up to the Mormon Rebellion. Government spies were planted in the nearby settlements from Colville to Peyton and delivered their reports to potential agitators at this outpost. They actually kept a priest on hand to help reaffirm the spies' faith in the true word of Christ. It's weird to think that Sydney was the last Mormon I knew. Are you sure Flynn works here? I exit my car, watching Carl stare ahead. His eyes are half lidded, the ram seeming to stare for miles beyond the building in front of us. Oh, yeah, I'm sure. All right. Carl doesn't move. Are you gonna come out? The ram blinks slowly, his maw starting to hang agape. He shifts his bloodshot gaze toward my torso. No, my parents would flip. He flops his wrist in front of him limply, his tone tinged with effeminacy. Of the car. Yeah, just give me a sec. Carl reaches down, unscrewing the lid from his water bottle and taking a few hearty glugs. When Carl grabs the car's door handle, he hesitates. After a moment, he looks at me. He's completely silent, sucking in his cheek on one side. Carl? Finally, he speaks. I sort of agreed to come without considering that I'd be talking to anyone but you and crew today. Let alone the mayor and stuff. I'm still stoned as balls, and I look like shit. He laughs some in a self-deprecating fashion, visibly sheepish despite the THC still flowing through him. I think I might just chill here in your car, with the air conditioning and high gun tactics. He holds up his phone, and I think I can just barely spot the icon for it in his sea of other game apps. Carl does look high, though he doesn't appear any worse than he usually looks. Telling him that probably wouldn't do much for his confidence, though. Carl, you look like shit. As you always do. I'll just let him stay in the car. That's probably a good idea, all things considered. You gonna be alright in here? I mean, if you start to sober up, feel free to come get me. I could always use a hand. I'm good, man. He scoots back the car seat some, leaning it back. You got me up way too early to be hanging out proper like anyhow. I'm usually asleep until like 3 hours from now. You really sleep until 2 o'clock? Yeah. Jeez. Hey, don't judge me. You're the interloper here. I'm about to make a jab about where Carl learned the word that large, but reading his expression, it's evident he isn't in the mood. And honestly, Neither am I. I toss him the car keys, and they bounce gently off the rotund bulk of his torso before he scoops them up off the floor mat. I'm gonna head inside and ask for permission to film. Then maybe go through some files inside if they let me. Carl grunts. They should. It's all like public record or something. Except for the aliens that crashed here in the 40s. That's still classified, Agent Hunter. A pang of nostalgia shoots through me as I catch on to what Carl is referencing, a faint smirk tugging at the corner of his lip. When we were little, Carl and I used to run around in old church clothes and pretend to be the G-Men, hunting for aliens. Agent H, Agent Hendricks, and Agent Hunter. Our parents got so pissed at us for playing in the dirt and black formal wear, but we were super into it. Even Carl drew up a zine, sort of documenting the make-believe adventures. Eventually, Carl started getting really into superhero stuff and tried to segue our adventures into the Superwolf universe. I didn't like Superwolf at all, and after an argument where I called him too fat to be a superhero, we ended our imaginary adventures. God, I was such a dick. Before I can say anything further, Carl is setting his phone aside and popping open my glove box. Do you still have those black sunglasses? Oh man, no. Carl said he liked them, so I gave the pair I had to him. I do have a tortoiseshell pair in there somewhere. Isn't that kind of girly? Carl gives me a sidelong look as he withdraws the aforementioned pair, holding them up to me. What? Guys can wear tortoiseshell. It's not like they're polka dot or something. My mom wears these colored sunglasses all the time. I literally can't see these without picturing her. Well, that's like your personal thing. No one else thinks that. He slides them onto his face. They rest somewhat awkwardly on his sizable snout, unable to settle in place neatly. Your nose is too big. Carl pulls his shades off his face and limply tosses them in the dash, leaning back in his seat with a long exhale. Alright, well, do your thing. I'll be here. Right. Be back soon, Carl. Yep. I turn, heading inside. Stepping into City Hall, the first thing I notice is how dry the air feels. Like there's no ventilation to speak of. It makes me feel like I'm standing inside a really slow baking oven. Half of me wants to run out and jump into the first body of water I can find, while the other half just wants to curl up into a ball and nap. The faint droning of a voice on the speaker is audible. It sounds like some sort of outdoorsy hunting and fishing podcast. Chase? Flynn's tall, leering form emerges from one of the doorways, a stack of envelopes in hand. We stare at each other for a few seconds, as the reality of what we've done with one another is hanging pretty poignantly in the air. Hey? He exhales, his demeanor shifting, his raised shoulders going more relaxed, and his head settles on the musty, carpeted floor. What? He looks back through one of the doorways beside him, then back to me, his scowled brow furrowed.
For a moment, my mind blanks, and I'm not sure what to do with my paws.
It's really stuffy in here.
Flynn looks at me questioningly.
The only people who work here are reptiles, so we keep the habitat all dry and such.
He shifts his gaze back to the doorway again before returning to me.
There's something you want? I'm pretty busy.
I clear my throat, crossing my arms over my chest. Yeah, I was hoping to get permission to film around City Hall and take a look at some records.
What records were you looking to go through?
Well, I don't know. Flynn stares at me with an indiscernible expression. I'm just looking for anything I can use in my report.
So, you don't have a parcel number, or a date, or anything? You just want to, what, browse?
Well, maybe you could point me in the right direction? You're the city clerk, after all. Flynn lets out a raspy exhale, moving to take a seat in a swivel chair at the front desk, his tail coiling around the base.
All right. The reading room is off limits on account that monsoon season took out a portion of its roof cover last year. I can set you up in the mail room with the microfiche and a computer for the time being.
He grasps the edge of his desk, staring at the tips of his fingers.
I need to check with the mayor to see what all you've got access to.
Flynn's about to stand up again when another Gila steps in the room. She's slightly overweight and decked out in khaki shorts with a matching outdoorsy button-up top. Despite being indoors, she dons a large sun hat, also khaki, with a vibrant floral bandana around her neck. This must be the mayor, Flynn's aunt. I thought I heard another voice in here. I catch wind of her perfume, a strong, sweet pea scent that seems to fill the room. Her slitted blue-green eyes focus in on me. It's almost like she's sizing me up. Are you from the grant committee? I pause, quickly shake my head. No, sorry. She visibly seems to deflate, her brow lowering and her eyelids drooping to a half-lidded lull. Oh. I'm Chase, Flynn's friend. Is that so? Another one then? She looks over toward Flynn, who's currently rubbing his temple. He responds quickly.
An old friend. Childhood. You've met Chase before, I'm pretty sure, or at least you've seen him around town.
She seems to think for a moment, before a look of realization comes to her. Oh, I almost didn't recognize you with that thing on your chin. I most certainly remember you. I blink, reaching up and covering my goatee instinctively. You're the one who was always palling around with the red wolf fella, Leo, weren't you? Gay couple, right? I chuckle a bit sheepishly, nodding. Having spent the past 3 years at Pueblo, I'm not as used to people talking about me like this as I once was. Yeah, sorta. I mean, yes. She exchanges a glance with Flynn, who is looking a bit tense.
Chase is doing a school project on the town and wants access to records we've got on hand.
He fill out a request form yet?
Oh, he just wants to browse, I guess.
Well, it's only public record stuff that I want to take a look at.
You still have to go through the process. Usually the requests are just for a parcel at a time.
What sort of school project is this for, Chase? Well, I'm a journalism major at the University of Pueblo. I have to create a documentary style video report on something. I chose Echo. Um, or you aren't aiming to smear us to the general public then, are ya? Her tone suggests she's joking, but she has that same intense look that Flynn has, where I can't really tell for sure. No, Mayor. You know, we have a grant application that we're interested in putting out there that requires a video entry detailing the sights around town. Would you be interested in that sort of thing? Oh, well, maybe? I don't know. I guess I'd have to know more about the project? Honestly, I can't imagine the sheer amount of sugarcoating I'd need to muster to create a positive report about this place.
Fill this out.
Flynn is pushing a form across the desk my way. The mayor clears her throat. Chase, where it asks for lot parcel requests, you can just put all inventory. All right, will do. As I take a pen from Flynn and begin to write, I see him look up to his aunt.
All inventory?
Yes.
All right then.
He huffs some idly. The podcasters on Flynn's computer's speakers are going into detail about creating complex fishnets and trappings. I'll leave you two boys to it then. Welcome back to Echo, Chase. It's good to be back. Flynn subtly rolls his eyes, turning back to his computer. The mayor just smiles before heading back to what I assume is her office. I finish up the form in silence, pushing it back toward Flynn. He squints at it for a moment before speaking.
Any word from Leo?
The topic change catches me off guard. I look up to see Flynn leaning in close, his voice lowered. Yeah, he believed the whole spending the night at Carl's story.
Carl went along with it?
Uh-huh. I ended up telling him the whole truth, though. I guess I just started feeling really shit about all this lying. Flynn leans back in his chair suddenly, clenching his eyes shut tight. He opens his mouth like he's going to say something, but just merely shakes his head.
Chase, you fucking realize that when this week is over, you just get to go back to college land. And I'm stuck here with the results of all your shitty choices?
You know Carl as well as I do. He wouldn't go telling Leo to start drama. And anyways, he saw us, by your truck. Flynn's eyes open, and he just stares at the ceiling for a long moment.
Fuck it. Let's get your musky ass set up with a goddamn county guest login so you can access our GIS maps.
He scoots back over toward his computer, beginning to type something in. I catch a glimpse of his desktop wallpaper. It looks like some sort of waterfall surrounded by a lush evergreen forest. It's kind of blurry, like a smaller image stretched to fit the screen size. I also see a few transparent stock image logos overlaid on top.
We've got physical records, the real old ones, stored in the mailroom. Though, I wouldn't say the shit there's very browsable. Some religious historical society types came by 8 months ago and helped us archive a lot of it.
They're all in the latched manila folders along the south wall. Flynn turns back to the computer, pecking at the keyboard. For a clerk, he's not remotely a fast typer. Oh, damn. I forgot to ask for permission to film here. Flynn grunts.
Granted. Go do that while I get this fucking thing working.
Glancing back at his screen, I see incorrect password. 2 remaining entries before lockout flash up. After looking at his keyboard, it takes me only a couple seconds to figure out what's wrong. Flynn?
What?
He snaps at me. I can see his pointed teeth between his scaled lips for a moment. You have the cap locks on. Flynn pounds the caps lock key with some extra force before returning back to his typing.
Thanks. Now fuck off for a bit.
I stare at him, and I can't help but feel a twisting sensation in my chest. I'm not sure if I expected him to treat me differently after doing what we did, but I definitely didn't think he'd treat me worse. I try to think up something to say to make this right, to make this not awkward as it seems to be getting. Yet, the longer I sit here, the more uncomfortable he seems to get. I guess I'm just literally leering at him like a creep right now.
Fuck.
I get up and head out, deciding keeping my mouth shut is the best course of action for the time being. The gravel parking lot makes it difficult to adequately line up my shot. Everything ends up looking slightly crooked. I know I can probably fix it all in post, but that's more work for me that I'm not looking forward to. Carl, meanwhile, has his eyes glued to his phone. It looks like he found a pair of earbuds because he's got those in too. Refocusing, I take stock of the footage I've got from here so far. The midday sun means that my recordings are all pretty much well lit, but I can't help but think that a sunset would be more symbolic. Maybe it'll come back later. I don't know. My phone vibrates in my shorts. Grabbing it, I see I've got a new message from Leo. With Gina and TJ playing football. I'm assuming he means soccer, but I decide now isn't the time to press him on word choice. Sounds fun, filming with Carl and Flynn here. I slide my phone in my pocket, unlocking the trunk of my car so I can start putting away all this equipment. Quick response from someone playing soccer. Upon checking my phone, though, the message turns out to be from Carl.
Get back to work. No texting.
I look around the trunk hatch to see Carl's smirking muzzle, his chin buried in his hoodie. Stepping back behind the trunk, I begin to text back. Should we flirt with him a little bit? Or fuck with him a little bit? Either way, he knows that we're going to be having fun, so it's fuck with him a little bit. I hope the AC breaks in there. After hitting send, I set my phone down, beginning to lock up the camera in the neon orange University of Pueblo hard case I borrowed. Another message from Carl.
I hope your hymen breaks in there.
What the hell is that supposed to mean? What? I finished packing up everything and shut the trunk, waiting for the next response. As if on cue, my phone vibrates once again. I also realize now that Flynn's standing at the City Hall entryway with his arms crossed, staring furrow-browed at my vehicle.
Why the fuck is Carl here, just sitting in the car?
I throw my arms up and shrug, checking my most recent message.
You know, 'cause you and Flynn are doing it right now.
I slap my paw over my face, taking a moment to make sure my phone's screen is nowhere near Flynn's line of sight.
The hell are you two doing? I've got your shit set up.
Zapping around the car, I text back. I don't have a hymen, as far as I know. I see Carl inside the car, texting rapidly. Flynn just dips his hands in his pockets and looks impatient.
Well, you are an otter and have muskellance down there. Third hole.
Jesus. I decide that's enough of that exchange for now, sliding my phone back into my pocket.
Oh, he's fucking stoned off his rocker, ain't he?
Flynn is squinting in the window at the ram, who seems to be chuckling to himself. He ate too much of an edible this morning, apparently. Flynn looks at me, then back at Carl.
Probably for the best he's staying in the car then. Come on.
He turns, heading back inside. I follow, catching a glimpse of Carl smiling to himself before going back to his mobile game. Flynn leads me through the narrow hallways, the ceiling laden with visible old piping and the walls covered in dents and scratches. Eventually, we turn into a colorful room that looks like a mix between an old post office and a kindergarten class.
Alright, like I said, archive files are in the back along the south wall. The computer in the corner is logged into the county's GIS viewer. Maps and shit, basically.
He points to a cream-colored computer that must be from around the early 2000s by the look of the make, dust visible on top of the tower. Oh, so like where the native burial grounds and that sort of thing are? Flynn crosses his arms, looking back down at me.
Yeah, no. As far as I know, the Meseta tribal government hasn't put forth any sacred site claims within miles of Echo.
Wow, really?
Really.
Why's that?
I don't have a whiff of shit's worth of a clue or care. Go ask Jenna if you want to be all weird about it.
I don't think she has much ties to her tribe.
Yeah, well, it doesn't suffer from being a bitch about it whenever she sees fit.
Flynn sucks in his cheek, as if saying that left a bit of an unpleasant taste in his mouth. Flynn speaking less than kindly toward folks isn't anything new, but not usually about Jenna. He looks down at some papers in his hand, as if they suddenly were very interesting. Is this about what she said when you got Carl the lighter from the reservation? His slitted eyes flicked back up to me, his lips thinned.
You thought that was bullshit too, right?
Well, I think she was just still in, I don't know, den mother mode with regards to TJ after what you did. If you want to get everyone talking again, you should just apologize. There's a pause in the conversation as cloud cover shades the light coming in from the window.
It's not just about the lighter crap. She doesn't give a shit about me, and she really didn't give a shit about Sydney.
I blink. I'm so amazed at how much his name is being mentioned after all these years of silence on the subject, especially from Flynn. He catches my expression and grunts, the Gila resting the side of his hip against the sorting counter.
When he died, all she fussed about was how it affected TJ. Sin could rot for all she cared.
That's not fair. We were kids, and people react to that sort of traumatic stuff differently. Maybe helping TJ is what kept her occupied.
Oh yeah? Remember a few months before it happened, when all that shit was going on with Sid's dad? Fucking Jenna. All she did was try to shield TJ from all the negativity of the situation.
She tried to help, but he was different. I don't know. Fuck. We were just kids.
No. She fucking hated Sydney. Carl hated Sydney. Leo hated Sydney. TJ would never fucking admit it, but he hated Sydney. And you hated Sydney.
He looks me in the eyes now. I'm quiet for a moment, trying to think of what to say. Flynn, meanwhile, just looks expectant, seemingly waiting for me to blanch and try to defend myself.
Sydney was an asshole.
He raises his chin some, his crossed arms seeming to squeeze more tightly over his chest.
Yeah. So am I.
No. Not like him.
Nobody knew him like I did.
You've said that, but that doesn't mean the crap he pulled on us, on TJ, was in any way justified. I'm pretty sure he genuinely enjoyed watching people get hurt. Flynn stares slack-jawed before quickly gritting his teeth.
He liked wrestling. He liked pirates. He liked pulpy adventure shit. But he did not like hurting people. TJ cried every day, no matter what. He could see a dead fly on a windowsill and start bawling. And all you would drop everything and come rushing to his aid, scoring the shit out of anybody who didn't. We couldn't make jokes. We couldn't tease each other. We couldn't roughhouse. And we couldn't even fucking swear without TJ getting upset. It isn't like we could just go hang out with someone else. This is Echo. And Leo is fucking dead set on keeping the group together. But now, the group for Leo essentially consists of two members. Your ass and his cock.
I frown deeply. Before I can interject, he continues.
When Sydney died, you all convinced yourselves he was this fucking monster kid, so it didn't have to hurt as much. I ain't gonna apologize. Fucking hell, they should.
Flynn uncrosses his arms, staring some out the sole window of the cramped mailroom. The cloud cover lifts.
I'll be at the front desk. If you take something, always put it back where you found it.
He turns, making his way back down the narrow hall. I'm left alone. Everything feels really quiet now, a sort of weird solace amongst the shelves upon shelves of Echo's history. I rub my face and muzzle, spinning a whisker as the previous conversation plays back in my head. and begins to fade like a passing dream. With a slow exhale, I turn and head over to the archives. They all seem to be categorized by numbers like 105 66 009 or 107 21 001. I grab a random file off the shelf 106 01 001. Flipping it open, I see a cluster of 15 or so papers and permits for a place called Adelaide's Thrift and Pawn. It sounds familiar, and it only takes me a little bit more perusing to figure out why. Near the exit from Route 93 to Flint Road, there's this faded old shack of rotten wood. Growing up, all that was left of the sign out front was Adelaide's Thrift. I think it's bulldozed now, though, since I didn't see it on the drive in. According to these documents, Adelaide Vonberg applied for and successfully obtained a business license and deed to the property in 1979. I'm guessing these folders correspond to a piece of property within Echo, or a parcel. That helps some, but I'm still not sure exactly where to look. I put the file away and move over toward the computer Flynn got ready for me. The screen displays an aerial photograph of Echo, with little polygons drawn over it like a bizarre checkerboard. Clicking on one, nothing happens. I click again and the pointer turns into an hourglass, the program stating that it's not responding. Damn it. As the hourglass rolls on the screen, I think I hear the front door open down the hall. At first I wonder if it's Carl, but then a voice speaks I don't recognize, then Flynn's. I can only make out a little of what he says.
That's what they told you at the county office? You could have come here.
The hourglass spins.
The unincorporation. It shouldn't affect developers who...
Finally, a little window pops up listing owner, address, parcel number, links to building plans, and other fields. Slow as hell, but this is actually kind of neat, I guess. Curiously, I scroll over to the location of my old house and click. This time it reacts a little faster.
The complaint forms are physical. Not much of an online presence at...
It's currently listed as abandoned and condemned. It looks like the people my parents sold it to ditched it rather quickly. I move back toward the archive, picking up my old house's corresponding file and setting it down on the counter. Opening it, I see a weathered floor plan of my old house dating back to 1986. Nothing here could remotely be considered of interest for my project, however. I put the file back where I found it. As I hear the increasingly quiet rasp of Flynn's voice in the other room, I realize he's probably too busy to hold my hand with regards to where to look. Especially after the previous conversation, it might be best to just give him some space. I stare at the aerial display on the computer monitor, trying to figure out where to start looking. Right. Well, we all know about the mine, but let's try there. It is probably a good place to start. There's something about the old mine that feels off to me. Unlike pretty much every locale in Echo, the mine was the one place we absolutely did not play. Sydney tried to make one of our scavenger hunt objectives down in there once, but TJ told his mom about it and that was the end of that. After looking up the parcel number, I retrieved the corresponding file and lay it out on the mail counter. This one has an archival notice attached to the front. I guess my hunch might be right. Opening the file, the first thing I note is that there is a seriously large amount of documents here, and even a laminated old photo. Huh. That's a hell of a lot more verdant than it is these days. Might have to do with the damming they did up north in the 50s. I'm guessing the CM 1915 is referring to the year the photo was taken. Within the folder itself, many of the documents seem to be legal in nature, including documentation about a lawsuit of some sort. The ones on top seem to relate to that tourism program Echo tried a decade ago. There's a few papers about a historical heritage grant, and the installation of a bench and 2 lamps outside the mine's entrance. There's even reference to a large placard installed in the side of the rock face outside, but I don't remember ever seeing that. Following this, there's another folder within that contains some condemned notices and squatter evictions dating from 1970 to 1975. Said folder also notes a work order for the installation of rebars in the mine front to prevent entry in 1976. Next, there's the actual lawsuit documentation itself. The lawsuit contributed, in part, to the official closing of the mine during the war in 1942. The working conditions were abysmal, and the owners of the mine were also heavily involved in town government, so there were corruption charges. The Danica mine, also known as the CSCG, Copper, Silver, Coal, Gold mine, was the most in-demand employer in the northern portion of this state for decades. This was, in little part, due to management by the owners, but rather the natural conditions of the mine itself. The structure of the bedrock kept cave-ins unlikely, and its chemical composition kept the temperature stable and somewhat bearable. Flooding was a minor concern due to the low water table of the region. In other mines within the state, miners may have been expected to stand in 2 feet of dirty water in 40-degree temperatures, all while the threat of a cave-in loomed, amplified with every strike of the sledgehammer. Yet even still, the mine managed to have one of the highest casualty rates for its workers in all the Southwest. The suit argues that this was at root due to severe negligence by the owner, Gregory Briggs. Miners were required to buy their own tools, including candles, sledges, picks, stakes, and even dynamite. Their wages, however, were of such little amount that many miners must have been forced to choose between having these tools and their family being able to eat that week. Many chose the latter, as most men who moved to Echo did so with the explicit purpose of being able to provide for said families. Briggs operated the mine under constant fear of worker unionization. To assuage this, he hired an incredibly nationally diverse assortment of workers. His rationale, though denied in court, was to ensure that no group of workers spoke the same language, thus reducing the chance of collaboration for better working conditions or wages. This preventative action was particularly heinous due to the nature of the work itself. Communication was crucial, especially in the low light conditions of the lower depths. Despite the language barrier, miners were expected to coordinate dangerous group mining procedures. For example, for standard ore extraction, one miner would hold a pick the mine wall while another miner swung the sledge toward the spike. With the light sources being scarce, this meant that the risk of striking the other miner with the sledge was a constant risk and something that occurred with some frequency. Many miners were crippled from blows to the paws or arms, and then once fired, were unable to support their families. This led to several notable starvation incidents within the town. The lawsuit documents also includes reference to a brief riot in 1915 where a grisly murder took place within the mines itself. I make sure to write summaries of all this information down on a blank sheet of printer paper before putting everything back. It's this sort of crap that makes me glad I live in the age I do now. I don't think I'd make a very good miner. Alright, that's that, I guess. After that, anything? At a school, about the mansion. But Briggs, but he didn't have the mansion, so let's try his City Hall. City Hall has a lot of history. I assume most of the really old stuff isn't on file, but I'd be curious to see what's there regardless. After looking up the parcel number, I retrieve the corresponding file and lay it out on the mail counter. This one has an archival notice attached to the front. That's good. Hopefully that means there's supplemental information in here. Unfortunately, upon opening the files, I see there aren't that many documents. There is, however, a marked photograph of some sort wedged between the folder edges. Whoa. If that is really the date of origin in the top right corner, this photo of these guys was taken at City Hall 100 years ago. I looked back down to the folder, finding a caption note for the image. Sheriff William Adler left, and Wensleydale researcher Cliff Tibbetts right at town meeting to discuss Echo-Meseta tribe relations. Adler, I just realized now, that's Janice's last name. Must be a distinct relative of hers. The rest of the documents in the folder just seem to consist of proposed additions and use changes for the building. A lot of them didn't pan out. There is a city government roster here, though, and it lists the historical election results for the town going back to the early 20th century. Surprisingly, Flynn and his aunt aren't the only Moores I see on this list. It looks like the Moore family has been involved in public office in some capacity as far back as 1914. Which is doubly surprising, noting the prejudice against reptiles that was pretty heavy back then. There's this whole negative stereotype about them doing evil and controlling the government that persists even today. So it's pretty weird a family like the Moores managed to keep getting elected back when the ignorance levels were much higher. I'll make a note to ask Flynn about it as sensitively as possible. I go ahead and put everything back in the folder before returning it to the shelf. So, what next? Nothing about the school or Carl's mansion. So, let's try the score. After finding the parcel number on the GIS thing, I can't seem to find the corresponding file to it. It's like it doesn't exist in any records here. Or it might just be misplaced. I'm going to go with the second theory. Maybe I'll ask Flynn about it later. Carl's mansion. I knew enough about Carl's family to know that his house is seriously old. His great something or another is the town founder, after all. This place has been seriously modernized into a more stucco adobe style, but there's some history underneath all that. Growing up, Carl overheard all this and started thinking the place was haunted. It freaked him out pretty badly. So much so, his parents basically begged me to have sleepovers with him during the weekends, and even some weekdays. Not that I minded, of course. Carl had all the video game consoles that were out, and his parents bought him the M-rated games. I got to stay up late with his giant TV, blowing up aliens and running over hookers. I remember he started to become less afraid as time went on, and his parents stopped asking me to come over as much. So, of course, shitbag younger me told Carl a bunch of stories about a ghost bride who I said I saw standing outside his house at midnight. And that's how I got to spend my whole 5th grade summer vacation living at Carl's place. After looking up the parcel number, I retrieved the corresponding file and lay it out on the mail counter. This one has an archival notice attached to the front. That's pretty surprising on account that it's a residential lot. Opening the folder, a photo placed in front of all the documents immediately catches my attention. Adler again. Wow. A part of my mind immediately flashes back to Leo, but even he wasn't anywhere close to this defined. I guess life in the early 20th century will do that to you. I should probably read the caption note for this that was attached. Sheriff William Adler rests after surviving the partial collapse of the Hendricks Castle. The Hendricks Castle? Below the note are some rather old rudimentary building plans crumbling at the edges. The penmanship is all weird cursive, and I can't read it. It does look a little like Carl's house, but much, much larger. What follows are a series of deed transfers from various members of the Hendricks family, and eventually more modern building plans. There's even a cutout for a magazine, Southwestern Modern, which shows off the kitchen space back when it was first redesigned. I noticed something wedged in the back, a beige piece of paper that doesn't look like anything else in here. A poem? Why would this be in here? Embrace of these lands, Boike. As black takes the sky, hot turns to cold, the safety of ignorance. From the specters of the day, shut their eyes, they wail, for the dark blanket. And to save them from a hell, and the blonde tarantula pulls itself from the depths, wrought within and without, in search of a suitor, who will not live past the vehemence of its love. I flip over the poem and set it down on the counter. On the other side is a notice of death for reference and an estate transfer. It's for a James Hendricks who passed away in 1913. The cause of death is listed as poison/infection, Theraphosida tarantula. This is pretty unsettling. I didn't think tarantulas were poisonous. I mean, I know they are, because I fear searched that information online one night after seeing one on my back porch at 3 a.m. I guess that poem was some sort of informal epitaph for this guy. Regardless, it's a shitty way to die. I slide the poem death notice back into the folder and make a note of it for the project. I think that's all for this parcel, so I place the folder back in its slot on the south wall. As I turn around, I see the mayor standing in the doorway. She's peering at me quizzically. A little startled, I straighten up. Oh, hi, Mayor. I was just finishing up. She's watching me speak, like staring at my mouth, not my eyes. It's honestly freaking me out a little. She doesn't respond. Mayor? Make sure you put everything back where you found it. Oh, yeah. Don't worry, I did that already. Did you now? She steps in the room and picks up a folder from the edge of the counter. I realize it as the one for the abandoned mines. Oh, God! Yeah, I forgot that one. Sorry. She stands there with the folder held out, waiting for me. I quickly move and take the folder. I try to ignore the hard stare I feel on my back as I walk to the archive wall. Far left end. Second cubby from the top. Oh, thank you, I didn't. Looks like Flynn's about ready to take off. You gonna give him some company? The way she phrases that makes me reconsider a hasty response. Sure, I can hang out with him and his roommate. You have a boy in your car. I blink. I have, Carl in my car, yes. He wanted to hang back while I did all the work. I feign a chuckle, though not very well. I've never been good at that whole smiling with your eyes thing. Carl Hendricks? Yes. Have a good rest of your evening, Chase. Thank you, Mayor. You too. She moves down the hall. After a moment, I follow suit to meet up with Flynn at the front desk.